I had a conversation with Kayla not too long ago about spreading myself too thin in all things, and
Okay.
it's something that like I would like to do, maybe in like a less structured like format.
Okay. It's just, I mean, if you have the ability to stop yourself from spreading yourself thin, do
Yes.
it. Because literally, I don't have that ability.
I know. Yeah, I know.
It's just constantly.
Definitely...
It's what I do. I told my kid today. I'm like, she's like, "Are you relaxed?" And I'm like, "I want to be relaxed." And she's like, "Okay." And I was like, "But I also want to do stuff." So basically, my entire life is planning for things that I don't want to do later.
Time to get your fix. It's a horrible gaming podcast. It's not good, it's not great. Horrible gaming podcast. It's not even what you would call fair. It's really not that good. Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Hello, my name is Zachariah with Old Man Gaming. You, dear listener, have decided for whatever reason to listen to another horrible gaming podcast. But I am not alone, and mostly I am never alone. With me is...
Neil, aka Tiny Wizard.
And we're here. We talk about video games, seemingly increasingly angrier as the days go by. But before we get into all that fun stuff...
And through the hourglass.
Yeah, exactly. Before we get into all that fun stuff, we've got to thank the people who made this possible. Number one, behind our ugly mugs, there's a custom graphic that was designed by Mr. Mark Bell. We thank him for that. Then, of course, the theme song for this show and all the shows here at Old Man Gaming are provided by the man who makes the music, my brother, Nick Van Siders. We thank him for that. And with that, we'll be right back with Fan Interaction.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, that brings us to our first segment, our most important segment, that is Fan Interaction. That's where we, the co-hosts, talk to you guys, the fans. We read out your comments and all of that stuff wherever we see them. And we only got 4 comments. Plenty of you listened, just not everybody had anything to say. So let's get into it. We start where we always start, Neil, with Mr. William Hohen. Hi! Exclamation point. After Image will be great. I'm quite confident on it. They released a demo a little while ago. I'll have to check that out. Oxenfree being owned by Netflix is scary, but we'll see. Still looking forward to it. Very well said, Neil. Parentheses on hype versus anticipation. I don't board hype trains anymore, but I still look forward to new interesting games. Thanks for the show, and thanks for the plugs too. Smiley face. Cheers. P.S. The fishing in Sonic is so good that it's worth to talk about it twice. Hashtag, oh my god, OMG 5 years of shit talk. Gotta love that one. I am very worried about Oxenfree 2 being a Netflix game, especially since there are multiple Netflix games, also AAA Netflix games, and I still don't understand how to acquire them. Like, is there an app that we download? Like, do we just buy them on Steam? Like, I don't know, like, what's going on. Like, a bunch of them have been announced, but, like, where do you get them?
Yeah,
I'm just too old. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't.
Like when I log into Netflix
sure.
upstairs on my system, it doesn't say, here's the games, you know?
I'm actually going to look at that real quick because that's something I've seen like increasingly like popping up more and more.
Yeah, there's a AAA one, like a Chinese mythology one, which is very like open world that they've been showing stuff on IGN for, and I can't for the life of me figure out where that's gonna be.
Wait, are you talking about like Wolong?
Not Wulong. That's
okay.
an Xbox exclusive. There's another one.
Okay, I was about to say.
And I'm not remembering the name of it, so I guess I'll do a little bit of research. Netflix. The one thing that sucks is like with this pop filter, it makes it so much harder to type because of my setup.
Oh yeah.
So like,
I think from what I'm seeing, it's like phone stuff.
yeah, I've seen some of that because I know TMNT Shredder's Revenge is a Netflix exclusive on mobile, which is very.
What the fuck does that even mean?
Yeah, right. I thought the same thing when I saw that. I was like, what does that mean? Okay, now I can't find the information for that game, and I don't want to waste the time looking it up. So, yeah, it's a real weird one. I don't know, like, how easy or how hard that is to be acquired. I would assume that they would launch another app, and it be like a streaming, like, or like Game Pass, where you download it and then play it through there. That's what I was assuming that they would do, like a Game Pass thing. But I haven't seen any. You can't do it through the apps that they already have there, and I haven't seen any new apps, so I'm very confused. I'm sure if I looked it up, I would understand.
I know there was that like weird period of time too where Netflix tried to like experiment with like a game-like experience with like a choose-your-own-adventure.
Oh, they had
thing.
a lot of those. Yeah,
They had those, and then I don't think Netflix themselves did it, but for a period of time on smart TVs, they decided to try to build games into them that you would play with the remotes.
Yeah, I saw those.
Which was like the worst idea ever.
Yeah, the worst experience. I think that like, and here's the thing, I'm sure there's a way, and I'm sure just a cursory Google search will give me that information. That being said, I should know. I'm a gamer. Like, you would think that they would be trying to barrage me with that information. If you're trying to, like, start a service, like, I shouldn't have to look it up. So, I somewhere along the line, their advertising on that has failed.
I was going to say, it's bad marketing. If you can't, if people don't know, that's like it's like the commercials that I've been seeing for like the Google Pixel. It literally opens with, "Did you know that Google makes a phone?" I'm like, well, you're number 7 and you're reminding people that it has that it exists.
Yeah.
No, you're not doing your job.
Right. All right. So moving on. Oh, and no problem on the plugs, Will. I love your channel. I wanna hear some more Not the Fuck podcast though. It's been a little bit. It's been on hiatus for a while. So I welcome it to be back. I don't want to rush you back because I understand how projects go, but I'm anxiously awaiting it to return. And then the fishing in Sonic is fucking nuts. Like, absolute bananas. I've never played a fishing game so randomly anime in my entire life. Yeah, like, if you have the ability to check it out in some way, maybe search it on YouTube, just do it.
Okay,
It's nuts. And like the pricing, because like I said, you can kind of circumvent a lot of the game because the whole point of the open world is you find these keys by doing things on the open world. Once you have enough keys, you can then open a Chaos Emerald, you know? Mm-hmm. You're trying to collect all 7 Chaos Emeralds. But you could just, once you find the fishing area, you can just go fishing and just fish for tickets and then use the tickets to buy vault keys to then get the Chaos Emeralds. So you don't need to like do any of the open world stuff. You just do fishing. But the pricing on it is like I said in the thing, you'll get this giant swordfish that like covers Sonic's entire body and it'll be worth like 25 tickets. And then you'll fish and you'll get a metal spring that's worth 200 tickets. And then you'll fish and you'll get a turtle that's worth 2,000 tickets. It's just, there's no like governing body on any, it's just random numbers being thrown at you while you pull increasingly stranger things out of a pond. Like you will be fishing in this pond that's no bigger than like your backyard. Like that's what it looks like in this game. You'll be fishing in it. You will pull out whales. You will pull out swordfish. You will pull out guppies. You will pull out turtles. You will pull out sharks. Like you will pull out fully working robots. Like it's just insane what that fishing game is. So yeah. All right. So now we've talked about it twice. Oh, I can't wait. I was trying to wait until you played it, but you just waited too long. I was like, I have to talk about this. I have to. So we've talked about it twice there, Will. Just for you, buddy. All right, so then Asylum 66. 2023, starting with the death of Stadia and Rock Band. Crying emoji. Well, one of those I'm really sad about. Hitman should have always been one game. Square tried to split up the games into episodic crap. Glad it failed. Although I do want to say, like, I guess I'm not very, like, familiar with the Hitman stuff. Like, these Hitman 3, are they all the modern ones? Like, do they count the old Hitmans into that? Or...
I don't know.
I don't follow it enough. I remember the episodic thing.
Yeah, I think it's the most recent 3 like games,
okay. All right.
That they like mushed together, because I think it was supposed to be like an episodic release originally. Yeah, and then they just decided once it's all out, they just throw it all in one complete package.
I think that I don't necessarily disagree with that. I'm not up enough on the Hitmans to really be able to speak on this. I will say anything that makes it more cost effective for players, I'm all for, especially when it makes sense. And from what I understand, this is a much more cost effective way for people to get all 3 games from here on out. And I think that's smart. It's also smart on their part because it makes people want to buy the game more. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I think so. If you haven't gotten into Hitman at all, you can buy one game and get it all right there instead of having to go searching for the others. And I think that's really awesome.
They'll do that in about 75 years with the Final Fantasy VII remake.
No, they won't. No, they won't. They want to make money. And then we've got Backdraft. Holy shit! Ubisoft is doing something that no one else can do. Question mark. I don't know what specifically this was in response to. We are going to talk a lot about Ubisoft today.
Well, it's going to come up. Ubisoft is going to come up.
And then Backdraft does the woo! He loves to do the Ric Flair woos. Thank you guys for commenting. And again, anybody out there, if you want to comment or get in on the commenting, we will read your comments in the following week. Here on Discord, wherever you want to comment them, as long as we see them, we read them. So, all right, you want to get into the terrible fucking talking point? We're talking Ubisoft today, guys. How could we not?
Yeah.
How could we not? So we'll be right back with that sadness.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, that brings us to our talking point, guys. Our talking point. Let me go ahead and set the stage for this talking point, because we have been talking for a few months now about how there's really one AAA designer still out there with no allegiances. That one independent AAA designer. That AAA designer is Ubisoft. But and I think, given the information that has just come out about them, which we're going to talk about, we have to really question the validity of them, question their stability. We're also going to talk about the individual things they announced, which, guess what, guys? Skull and Bones delayed again without a release date, which is a real bummer. Only a release window.
Hey, they have a window. They have a window.
Yeah, you never want to go from a date to a window, though.
Sorry. Oh, but the window is wide open.
Wide open. And they also have announced that they have canceled 3 previously unannounced games in light of new internal restructuring to the company after the poor sales of Rabbids Cross Mario Kingdom Battle, the sequel, and then Just Dance Revolution, or Just Dance 2023. All right, so where do we want to start on this? Should we start with Skull and Bones, or should we start with just the state of Ubisoft? Because I've got a lot to say on a lot of different subjects here. It's one of the reasons, just so that everybody knows, I definitely picked the topic for today.
Let's start with Skull and Bones, because that's eventually going to bleed into the overall Ubisoft shenanigans.
All right, Skull and Bones. Let's talk about Skull and Bones. Skull and Bones has now been in development for 8 years, correct? Am I wrong on that? I believe it's 8 years.
I do believe you are correct. That is 8 years.
All right, so we're at least 7. It's either 7 or 8, but I'm pretty sure it's 8. So let's talk about this. It gets delayed for a 6th time, but let's face it, even though it's only been delayed 6 times, it it went silent for basically like 3 years, so that doesn't necessarily count. But it got delayed. It was supposed to come out back in November. It got delayed from November to March 9th. And then March 9th, they have now delayed it without a release date, pushing it into, I believe what they said as early second half of 23-24 fiscal. So just so that everybody knows who's not aware, fiscal means like it basically the earliest this could release is April. And everybody's thinking April. I'm not thinking April, but everybody's speculating that it's going to be sometime in April. They apparently did a dev stream for the game 2 days later. What the fuck they were thinking for that, I don't know. And I was not aware of that, or I would have watched it. I would have watched it start to finish. If for no other reason than I really like that game. I want to play that game. Okay, so this... I am starting to become increasingly more sure that I'm right, and they're trying to put something into the game that wasn't previously in there that they shouldn't be trying to put into the game, based on pressure from the audience at large, from the people out there, just their backlash that there's no third-person sword fights, and no boarding, and no island exploration. I think tinfoil hat on. I think that's kind of starting to be in my favor. I mean, do you disagree with that now? Like,
yeah, they're 100% adding. Like, this isn't polish at this point. This is not polish. This is.
Or
like
if this is polish
features.
right now, they tried to add something else. You know, like if they're in the polishing phase. It got pushed out because they tried to add some sort of features. Like,
yeah, it's definitely something that, and again, like I've talked about this every time we talk about Skull and Bones, like the amount of delay. And this is a game, like, I mean, I know there are people like yourself who are excited for the game, but I don't know as if this game has a broad enough appeal to bring in enough people to make the money back, or at least even break even for this game.
So I don't necessarily disagree with what you're saying. I personally, I think it's an intangible. I don't think you can really know that until the game's out and in the wild. I kind of understand where you're coming from on that, but there's also a couple other things to consider. Like, number one, how many pirate games do you know of? And how many AAA pirate games do you know of? One, right?
Right.
It's one. It's Sea of Thieves. That's it. And this game does something decidedly different than Sea of Thieves. It's an alternative to Sea of Thieves. And it's still got the online component. So I think that in itself, you know, you're offering a pirate game in a genre that people... But again, you could be completely right. I'm not fighting you on it. I'm saying that, like, that's kind of an intangible. My thing is, you cannot know that, right? Until you release it. You can't know that until you release it. It's not... The other thing is, you can't make any money until you put it out. Like, other than... Unless you're talking about investment money. At this point, investors should probably be suing Ubisoft. But, like... You can't know what it's going to be until you release it. You just can't. And you can't make any money back from not releasing it. Now, don't get me wrong, everybody out there. I'm not saying that you shouldn't polish a game. And if a game's not behind, you shouldn't potentially delay it. I am a firm believer that if you give me a release date, your ass better be ready to put that game out on that release date, because that's a verbal contract. I think you should give release windows until you are 100% sure you can put a game out. That being said... I want it to be polished. I want it to be pretty. If it's not in that state, finish it. Shit happens. But this is Ubisoft's bread and butter. Their biggest earners are games as service. I mean, granted, most of them are competitive, but this is very competitive in a lot of ways too. I mean, Rainbow Six Siege and For Honor. Those are two of their biggest earners in company, and have been for years. I mean, years. Here's the thing, though. Those games started off in a shitty place, a real shitty place. People may not realize this. It may have been too long. Rainbow Six Siege was a nightmare when it first came out, and For Honor did not have dedicated servers when it came out. So lag and crashes and all sorts of problems were there. These two games, they worked from the bottom up, and now they're there. This is what Ubisoft makes their bread and butter on, is games as service coming out and being games as service. I would actually say, regardless, I mean, not speaking specifically of what's going on right now, but I would say Ubisoft, as a company, does games as service better than just about any other AAA game company out there, unless you're talking about maybe Bungie. I mean, even The Division and The Division 2. Yeah, they like to say that it didn't hit their markers for them or whatever, but those games are solid games as service experiences with still player bases in them. That's an achievement in itself. So what I don't understand is, if you're that nervous about making, like what's this apprehension at this point? It's been 8 years. You've brought games back from dead multiple times. You're a games as service company that specializes in this. Why are we still pushing this back? You don't make any money off not releasing it. And I think at this point, the people who are going to be upset with that game are going to be upset with that game regardless of what they do to it right now, because it's gonna not have features they want because they've overhyped it. And the people who are going to be happy with that game are going to be happy with that game regardless of what you're about to put in it.
Yeah, and I think too, more to your point, like the fact that this game is going to be a game as a service anyways.
Right.
There is that inherent idea with a game as a service, is like, look, it's coming out, this is how it's going to be. Basically, the majority of games as service now do this. It's like, it'll come out rough or it'll be okay, but as time goes on, it's going to improve. Why it is that they're going to delay that again, the only explanation that I can think of is literally for, you know, what it is that that you had mentioned, like that they're considering or have already added an entirely new set of features or something along those lines that we hadn't seen thus far, based off of feedback from that very first time that they, you know, let the world really get their hands on it and see what's going on.
I mean, and at what point do we face feature creep of that? Because let's face it, it's been in development for 8 years. It's not going to make its nut back. Not right away. It just isn't. It's physically impossible for it to sell enough copies day one to be a financial success. So right now, there's no point in holding it back. There's no point in trying to get that perfect launch. All you're doing is adding to that debt that it can't put a dent in because you're not making any money on it. You know,
right.
So, which brings us, we might as well segue into it.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the stability of Ubisoft, which I think is in question here. I mean, just aside from this, the last game Ubisoft put out was Roller Champions last year, which was a free-to-play roller skating, roller derby sort of game that did not have great success in the market because of balancing issues. That being said, it hasn't put anything else out. Not for pay, not for anybody buying, not this year, not last year. So, like almost 2 years now. I think the last thing before that, I think the last game that it put out for actual purchase was Assassin's Creed Ragnarok. It was either Assassin's Creed Valhalla. It was either Assassin's Creed Valhalla or Riders Republic, one of the two, whichever came first, I don't know. But that was the last, not including the Nintendo stuff, man. We'll get into the Nintendo stuff.
No,
not including the Nintendo stuff.
Far Cry 6.
Was that after? That was after Valhalla. You're right.
Yeah.
Far Cry 6 was a nightmare. But I mean, still, let's put all three of them together. That's 3 games in roughly 3 years that we're talking. Then you look at their first party stuff that they've done. They're specific to Nintendo stuff, which is Just Dance 2023, which is usually a huge moneymaker for them. And then, which is a motion-based game, okay? Which I'm going to talk about that in a second. And then Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle 2. Okay? So Mario plus Rabbids unexpectedly below their expectations. Okay? Not going to argue that. But then you have like Just Dance 2023 is below our expectations. Motherfuckers, this is the last motion game that's been surviving for years, and while it's been making you a lot of money, it's been the last holdout. Did you expect an annually released dancing game to continue to be your supplying factor for years to come? Like, motion gaming as a whole has been basically dead for the last, like, the fact that you've been making as much money on it as you have has been surprising. That should have already been something that, like, if we make money on this, great. And then if you do, it's bonus, but below expectations. It's a fucking Kinect game. It's a fucking Xbox Kinect game that's still somehow around. Like, I don't know.
So the model of that game is also very interesting too, because I don't know why they even bother selling it annualized like that, because and I only know this because Kayla's actually done this a couple times.
Okay.
You can actually go and pay for like a pass on the game to just get access to all the songs. And you can pay for like an actual subscription to it, or you can literally pay like, it's like $3 or something to get a day pass. So like they even know, they know who their audience is for that. It's people who like once in a great while want to play a game like that. And they give everybody options for it, which is great for consumers.
Right.
Absolutely. I mean, if I could like do a pay to play for a paid game, like 24-hour access for like $3, yeah, shit, sign me up.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, is like, you're
especially
not
a game
gonna make
like
money
that.
that way. Yeah, you're not gonna make any money that way at all.
Well, and the thing is if you're making money at it, great, but like why are you selling it as a new game then? Like that's my thing. Why isn't it just like, this is the game, here are new songs for it every so often? Why are we doing this annualized franchise thing? How could it score below your expectations? Like, that's the problem. So like, based on that, they're doing restructures, and they've canceled 3 unannounced games. So let's look at what they have announced. It's just Assassin's Creed games. It's like 9 Assassin's Creed games, and then that's it. That's it. So are they just banking on Assassin's Creed from now until the end of time while using games as service? And are all of those moving into this games as service free-to-play model? I don't know.
Don't forget Beyond Good and Evil 2. That's still in pre-production, I guess.
It's not a game. It's not a game. I refuse to believe it is anything.
Yeah, it's... I'm not sure, like... because I was smart this year, I put our predictions up on a sticky note on my desktop here, so I can easily reference them. Fun
That's
fact,
weird.
I
always forget them like 2 weeks after.
Fun fact, I did actually accidentally find last year's predictions. And to answer Phil's question, there was still the jelly mark on it.
Oh, Phil, there you go.
Yeah.
There's the jelly.
So, yeah. I was like, what is this splotch? Wait a second.
It's the jelly. Jellygate.
Your number one, your very first prediction is the one that I am increasingly thinking may happen.
I think I might get a half point for it. I don't think I'm going to get a full, but...
You don't think Microsoft announcing Ubisoft, the acquisition of Ubisoft?
I think Microsoft has to get through the FTC thing, and to do that, it's going to be like, I don't expect that to resolve anytime soon. Those kind of things drag out. I feel like that's going to drag almost until next year. So even if they want to buy Ubisoft, I don't think they're going to be able to do it until they resolve this. Once they resolve this, if they win in any way, it's gonna be game on, because basically that means they're immune to antitrust and they're just gonna start buying things. Because if you can't stop them the first time, you're not going to stop them the second time.
Right.
You know?
Well, that's the thing is I'm thinking like if the Activision Blizzard deal doesn't go through, I think they'll still want to buy somebody. Right. And at this point, Ubisoft
that's what Phil had said. He was like,
Ubisoft is ripe for the picking.
I think that, I mean, potential buyout, it's there. It really is there for anybody who wants to purchase them. I think that they are in financial trouble. They haven't had any moneymakers in a while. I mean, like I said, they're making all their money off their games as service that have been around for years and years and years. So I'm trying to figure out, but the thing is who's going to buy them, right?
Right.
Like, Xbox is in a situation, sure, maybe they do buy them. Maybe that prediction does come true. I still have a feeling, though, that they're going to have to fight this FTC battle longer than we'll be able to purchase Ubisoft. That being said, personally, I've kind of changed it, and I think if we're talking buyouts now, since we've segued into it, I don't think Sony has the change to buy them out, personally. You know who I think's going to do it?
Embracer.
Oh, well, that's possible. I wasn't going to say them, but that's possible. Amazon's the smartest.
Yeah.
Amazon, and I think I said this on a podcast maybe years ago. I don't remember when we were kind of like discussing stuff like this. Amazon has been trying to like really get footing in the games industry for a while. They don't, and they have but they have what? Just New World. Like that's their only success. Every other game they've released has been a nightmare. If they were to buy Ubisoft, they get the Ubisoft library, they get the Ubisoft software, they get Ubisoft Connect that they can then integrate into Amazon very easily, I'm sure. I think that Ubisoft would put Amazon on the map, and Amazon has the bank to purchase Ubisoft, personally. I think that Embracer's not stupid. Embracer owns everybody. I love the fact that we're... And don't get me wrong, I don't want Microsoft to own Activision, but I love the fact that FTC is suing Microsoft over that when Embracer Group literally owns 17 studios, just an insane amount.
I think the heart of that entire issue is literally just the fact that it's Call of Duty's everybody's big hang up.
I think it's AAA. When you look at the thought process of AAA, like Embracer owns 14 studios, maybe 2-3 of them are AAA studios. Microsoft owns all of them. Bethesda, Obsidian, tons of AAA studios. I think that's when you get into that territory of okay, now we're in trouble. Still, Embracer does own a lot, but I think Embracer owns a lot of indie studios, and I've only actually purchased a few of the top-tier AAAs, like Gearbox. I don't know. It could be Embracer. I think Amazon is a good guess, too, for who would purchase them if they're going to get purchased. Either way, I feel that they are in just a serious amount of trouble, just given the situation. And I think that there's something else to be talked about here too, and that is without Ubisoft being an independent studio, and granted, if it gets bought by Amazon or Embracer, it still basically stays, it'll hold its function as a AAA independent. What does that do to the market when Ubisoft goes away, man? When we do not have a AAA studio with neutrality among the studios, neutrality among the different platforms. Just think about how terrible that'll be. And this is kind of the future I've been talking about for a while, because at that point, everything will be owned by either Microsoft or Sony or Nintendo, and that's about it, Well,
I think that we're increasingly inching towards another crash sort of situation. Because everybody now, all of the platforms, all of the major, Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, not so much Nintendo, but still kind of in the groove for the purpose of all of this. they're all acquiring studios, and like, well, we'll just start pumping stuff out. We'll just start, we got to get stuff going here. Obviously, Microsoft hasn't done anything in a hot minute, but that's an entirely different conversation.
They're purposely not.
Well, at this point, yeah.
I think we would have had announcements at the Game of the Year Awards for releases first half of 2023. I think we didn't get them specifically because of this FCC thing. And I think we're going to get some of them at that upcoming show that they announced recently. The two of them. The one month. That's like for Redfall.
Oh, there's two of them.
Yeah, because the one that you showed me is actually like they first announced an Inside Xbox that's going to center around Redfall and one other game. I can't remember the other one. And then a bunch of other independent titles. And then they said, but no Starfield, and we'll announce a Starfield show at a later thing. So now they've announced a Starfield Direct as well. So we've got 2 Microsoft shows coming that are independent. I think those shows are going to give us those release dates. I think we're also going to get a lot of release dates from some other games, but I think a lot of that stuff was held back to make themselves look weaker.
Yeah, for sure. But like at the rate that it's going, like. And everybody's going to be owned by the same corporations. The indie scene is really where things are going to continue to grow and thrive. But at some point, you just hit a critical mass. Like, you make all these purchases and you're not going to get the returns on these purchases. So now all of these studios are going to look to cut costs, everything like that. And we may be approaching a crash sort of situation. I mean, even with Ubisoft, Yves Mo sent out that email and said, oh, we're looking to cut costs, be as lean as humanly possible, this, that, and the other, because they announced all of these things that they just have sunk so much time in and have done nothing with.
Right.
Prince of Persia, the Beyond Good and Evil 2, whatever those 3 unannounced games are, Skull and Bones.
All those Assassin's Creeds, like 5 Assassin's Creeds.
Like 5 Assassin's Creeds, which I'm sure some of those are getting delayed even further now as a result of this. Like, they spent all this time and energy on all of these games here. The games they did release in like before these were coming, did not perform how they wanted them to.
Yeah.
So now they were banking on the previous game's performance for these, and the turnaround's not anything that's really making any sort of money. Honestly, at this point, I feel like Skull and Bones' best option is to just go straight up and down free to play. Don't charge money for it.
I don't necessarily disagree with that, especially with the microtransactions. But I've always said that your game should not be, like, if you're going to have season passes, not season passes, but battle passes and microtransactions, you shouldn't be asking us to pay money up front. If you're asking us to pay money up front, you shouldn't have that shit, at least not for the first little while of the game. But, I mean, from what certain people have seen of the game, this guy, that's already in there. They had microtransactions literally in the game during an alpha. So, like, I think that, like, one of the things, I agree, free-to-play. I think that they are definitely trying to move towards more of a free-to-play sort of thing. That being said, I don't necessarily think you're wrong about a crash. I think that, like, if you really look at the trends of gaming and what people are really into, I'd say they're more into the indies. When you pay full price for a game, people are usually paying it for the indies right now. And granted, the indie games are rarely the $70 price that all the big name companies have put on their games. Mm-hmm. But how many of those new games coming out at $70 a price are people really purchasing right out the gate? I'd wager to say not as many as before. I think the number has dropped, and I think you can tell that. I think that's evident by how quick these fucking games go on sale right after. You had said something to me after Gotham Knights came out, because like I want to say like 2-3 weeks afterwards it was on sale, which is insane for a $70 game to come down that fast. But honestly, I don't even think it's insane anymore. I don't know of one that doesn't, other than maybe the sports games or Call of Duty. They all drop price like just a couple weeks after they release because they're releasing so fucking high, and people are willing to spend their money on smaller games that have more use to them. Especially one of my favorite games. I've already got a list going in my phone because I said this last time. Whenever the horrible Game Awards finish, I immediately start a list. Start a list, and then I just bump things as the year goes on. I already have a couple of games on my Game of the Year list. One of them's River City Girls 2. It's absolutely the greatest brawler that has ever been made. But that aside, look at that game's size. Look at the size and the scope of that game. It is a massive brawler. It has a massive world to it. It's $40 new out the gate. Mm-hmm. You look at a game like RimWorld, okay? RimWorld on Steam, one of the more popular independent Steam games. Game is huge with constant replayability. It's $34. These big, huge projects come out buggy. They come out glitchy. The players know it. They know it's going to be buggy and glitchy, so they wait for the sales and they wait for those first day patches. They spend their day one money on these independent games right now. So, and don't get me wrong, I'm sure they still make millions and tens of millions of thousands of billions of dollars on AAA releases. I'm not saying they don't. I just think that you have this kind of feel of an exodus from AAA studios to AA and single A studios as far as development goes, while you have these guys up here who just seem completely and totally oblivious to all this, just playing chess match with a bunch of pieces that nobody really cares about anymore. Why is it you were able to buy Activision? Why is Ubisoft in such a shitty place? I think that you have to look at the fact that these giant companies... why were you able to buy Bethesda? I think these giant companies were already starting to fail. They were already in positions where they were losing their shit and falling apart. So I think if you didn't have Microsoft with just money out the butthole, you probably would have already had a crash, Just my thought process.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I would...
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, that's the thing is it's putting a Band-Aid on an issue just by acquiring things, but you're borrowing at that rate, effectively borrowing from the future, because I think the one main thing that a lot of these companies don't necessarily glom onto or realize, or however you want to square it, that they kind of need each other to keep each other on their toes.
Yeah. Because,
competition is good for the customer, but competition also keeps the companies on the up and up, keeps them innovating and stuff like that. Because eventually, at the rate that it's going, maybe 20 years from now, Microsoft is going to be nothing there won't be... Xbox is going to be a brand of a service.
Yeah.
There's not going to be a console. There's not going to be anything like that. It's literally just going to be here are all of the games. We are Netflix now, and it's just distributed to different devices.
Yeah.
And they don't have to do anything, almost effectively where Valve is now. Valve, used to do games, and now it's just we're just a distribution platform now. We don't have to fucking do anything.
We own all the
anything.
games.
We have the
cut
games.
Of all
we sell you the
games.
games. Exactly.
Right. I think that I think that the people at the top, the people who are running these things, somewhere along the line, lost track and lost touch with the average game consumer. I don't think Phil Spencer. I don't think Mark. PlayStation guy, Mark
Cerny?
Yeah, I think Mark Cerny. I don't think these guys, I don't think Yves, what's his face? Guillermo. I always want to say Yves Guillermo, and I know that's wrong, so that's why I don't think Yves Guillermo. I don't think any of these guys are really in touch with the average players anymore. I don't think they understand what they want. I think they do. And I think they're doing things by looking at sales. And you mentioned the whole D&D OGL thing in between segments. And I'm a firm believer that whole situation is created by a lack of understanding of what a larger company purchased. That's what I think it is. Everybody's like, oh, they're evil. And yeah, they're definitely evil. I'm not saying they aren't. But I think you have somebody at the top who saw on a sheet a brand that they were like, this is worth money. Everybody talks about D&D. This is worth money. Let's purchase this. And they got it. And they did not have the understanding of what it was. They just saw dollars and cents and realized that the dollars and cents weren't in the exact right spot. So they decided to start trying to make the dollars and cents there, and inadvertently are destroying the thing that they purchased to make them money and making it unable to make them the money they purchased it for. But I think it's an ignorance thing. I think it's because the Hasbro people, a board game manufacturer, a basically toy manufacturer, bought a brand they thought they could make just they thought they'd make money, but they used all their board gaming rules in their head. And then when they started changing things, you know what I mean? Like, they didn't really realize, they lost touch with what they were purchasing. And I think the same can be applied to the video games. I think that you have all these people at the top who think they know what the consumers are willing to do, who think they know what the consumers are willing to spend their money on, who think they know what the consumers want and are willing to put up with. And I don't necessarily think they are. I know this sounds like kind of a hopeful outlook on the subject, but I think at the end of the day, you've already seen some of that. You've already seen these big AAA companies start to kind of fall apart. They're falling apart because they're spending too much and asking too much in return for giving too little. You know?
Yeah.
I think it's one of those... okay, you coulda, but should you've? You know, you look at the and that brings us back to Forspoken. That's one of my biggest problems I had with Forspoken. You have these giant graphical games with just tons of money fed into them. Okay, that's great. How many people want that game? Like, somewhere along the line, people are forgetting to ask themselves, who wants this game? How much should we actually spend on this game? You know what I mean? We look at Skull and Bones and what it is. Okay, ship combat, whatever. Does it have to be as pretty as it is? No, it doesn't. It doesn't at all. Because if somebody wants a ship combat game, they'll pay for the ship combat game. You know what I mean? Like, you're not asking yourself what people want. You're just doing a thing, deciding you know what they want beforehand, and you're spending untold amounts of money on it without any assurance of getting it back, you know? Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. But I don't know. I think we've exhausted this subject. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. For now, I'm sure there's going to be more developments.
Hey, man. Look, fingers crossed Ubisoft doesn't go away, because while they're not my favorite people in the world, they have been one of my favorite companies. They've made some of my most favorite games that I've ever played. Watch Dogs Legion was Ubisoft. I love The Division. I like The Division 2. I loved For Honor. Anybody who knows me knows how much I loved For Honor. Prince of Persia's. Like, I don't want this company to go away. I don't want it to go away. I want Skull and Bones to be a success. That being said, they're doing stuff wrong. And I think that they either get bought or they fold, and that's not fun. That's not fun. But we don't want them to go. I want Ubisoft to be successful just so that we have competition that's neutral to all platforms, you know? All right. Let's move on to odds and ends. We'll be right back, guys.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, guys. We are back with our last segment, and that is odds und ends.
Odds und ends.
Odds and ends. This is where we don't do terrible German accents for the entire time.
Never.
What we do is we collect smaller news stories that we don't decide to use as our talking point. We just riff about them, talk about them, let you guys in on them. I actually have 6, and Neil has 3, doing a complete role reversal from last week. So I guess I'm going to start us off here. I'm going to go ahead and start with the one that we think we might share.
Okay.
So guess what, Neil? There was one last entry into the Stadia story. I knew it.
Yeah.
I knew you were going to have it. I knew you were going to have it. Do you want to take it or you want me to finish it?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
So Stadia released its final game on the platform just 3 days before the platform shut down totally, I think, right? Like it shuts down on the 18th.
Something like that,
it released, I guess, 4 days. And it released, it's the 18th. So if you're hearing this or listening to this, it's done. But they released one final game 4 days before its end, and that was called Worm Game. Or The Worms? No, Worm Game.
I actually have a different one than yours.
Oh, that's exciting.
So go ahead.
So Worm Game is a game much like Snake, but like old school Snake, eats the apple, gets bigger, you can't eat your own tail. But it had many multiplayer aspects. It had other puzzle aspects. And basically it was designed as a way to test Stadia's tech. They used it to test, to demo tech for Stadia, which I don't understand how a 2D Snake clone tests the tech of a AAA game, but fine. And
it has to run on a Nokia phone.
Right. So they launched it for just 4 days. You can only play it for 4 days through Stadia because Stadia's done as of the 18th. They launched the game and then they were like, hey, if you want to play this in the last couple of days, this will be the last game released, and then it's done just like everything else. That they also thanked everybody for, being part of it, and thanked everybody who actually, tried to play on the platform. And, there is a somber part to it too, which you forget that there is just, like, as evil and shitty as Stadia ended up being and we disliked, there was a bunch of just nice, normal dudes and girls who just programmed and worked on it. You know what I mean? Like, we're just trying to make a thing, and those people failed. And that sucks. That's kind of a tragedy. So I'm gonna give that little shout out to them. But yeah, Worm Game was their final game for Stadia.
Well then I'm actually just
might
gonna
as well
roll
just do
right
yours.
in, to the other one. There was actually one final update as well to the Stadia controller. Get this.
Oh, I heard about this.
The final update allows you to use it as just a normal ass Bluetooth controller.
Yep.
Why this wasn't a thing to fucking begin with, I'll never know. But yeah,
which it obviously could have always been a thing.
Yeah.
If it was just as easy as an update.
And it definitely tried to use like Wi-Fi primarily, which I believe is part of the reason why the latency was so bad with it. But given the fact it had Bluetooth functionality built in the whole time, why in the actual ass? I mean, their final act is like, oh wow, it's a surprise. But when you think on it, it's like, wait, you were just screwing yourself even more the whole time. You had one of your answers whole time.
I think one of the reasons is they wanted you to be able to play this on devices that didn't necessarily have Bluetooth.
But at that point,
I'm not disagreeing with you, but I think that's why it worked on Wi-Fi mainly, because like there are plenty of TVs that don't use Bluetooth necessarily. So I think that's why they did it. But why not put the Bluetooth option in there so that you have better, like, be like, hey, you can use this on any Wi-Fi. However, the latency isn't going to be great. So if you have the Bluetooth capabilities, here's the Bluetooth way. You know what I mean? Like, it's definitely still a shoot yourself in the foot sort of situation. So yes, but adios Stadia. We hardly knew you.
Hardly knew you.
Actually, we kind of knew her too well.
We knew her too well.
All right, so you want me to go back into my list?
May as well.
All right, so another bummer. Deathverse, Let It Die, has been suspended, or is being suspended in July, and it is going on. They set an indefinite hiatus until they figure out how to make it more successful. So Let It Die is a battle royale type game. With some interesting ideas. It's kind of this weird steampunky thing, and it's got kind of a game show mentality to it. It also has a lot of melee and shooting mechanics that are kind of cool. However, the game was just plagued with matchmaking issues, server issues. Like, they just could not get their server shit to work correctly. So they've decided to suspend it. But they have said specifically, they're like, look, we're an independent studio. I know this is like a AAA size game, but this is a labor of love for us. We have no intention of it not coming back. So we are going to work on it and continue to work on it, but it's not right to continue to have it out there in this state. So they are taking it down as of July. It is going to be suspended. It is a free-to-play game. I checked. It's free-to-play battle royale game. Deathverse, Let It Die. Suspended as of July. If you tried that, I don't know.
Yeah, I actually don't think I've even ever heard of this game.
I've heard of it. And I've seen some trailers on it, and I remember thinking, this is interesting. It's an interesting one. I definitely saw some, like, IGN stories on it. So it had... But then, like, I didn't even know it released, is the thing. Like, I saw it, and I was like, oh, this looks interesting. I wonder when the release date is. And then, apparently, it's been out for months. So that could be part of their problem, too.
Yeah, I guess. Sony is super, super serious about their new terms and conditions for one of the more recent updates that they had for the console. So much so that when those terms and conditions went live, it was actually booting people out of games mid-game to read and accept the terms of service.
Good God. Could you imagine? I'd be so mad.
Yeah, there was a lot of people, ranked play, stuff like that, who were in the middle of matches, in the middle of games, in the middle of doing things one way or another, and it pops through and says, hey, guys, you got to do this thing right now. It's like, I don't know, it's almost like signing a waiver to, like, go into somewhere like a dangerous location or something like that. It just feels very strange. Because normally, like, I get it when you first turn the console on, or like it'll tell you, hey, there's a system update. Like, when you shut your console off, you're going to update. Because, I mean, that's what my PS5 does. Like, when you go to turn it off, it'll tell you when you turn it on, say, hey, just so you know, there's an update. It's either downloaded or downloading. And then when you go to shut it off, it says, hey, you have this update ready to go. Do you want to just install it now or install it and shut down?
Right.
Like, it gives you the option, which is really nice. But apparently with the terms of service, goddamn, that end user license agreement, you better take care of that before you even try to have fun.
PC for life from here on out. Sorry. Consoles are crazy. They be crazy, y'all. They be crazy. I mean, PCs be crazy too, but at least you have more control over your shit.
Yeah.
I mean, all right. So back to me then.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Nixie Wizard. It is a controller coming out for the Nintendo Switch. It's a very interesting controller because this controller uses Wavebird technology. Look.
I saw it. It's the split.
It is Joy-Cons / controller that looks like a GameCube controller. For starters, a lot of people love the GameCube controller, so you can have that design. But they also designed it to be Joy-Cons, and those Joy-Cons suffer no Joy-Con drift, is their boast. It will never have Joy-Con drift because their Wavebird technology, which uses some sort of magnetic thing, will never actually, like, it won't touch the servers, so you'll never have that wear that Nintendo Joy-Cons have now that eventually suffer the drift. So yeah, they boast no drift on it. It's called the Nixie Wizard. It is not out yet. I'm sure it will cost $1,000.
Yeah, there's another one out there that is like modeled after a combination of the Microsoft's the Elite controller combined with the Switch Pro controller that does the same sort of thing. It has that magnetic technology in the sticks that's supposed to be really nice. So, and that costs, I think it's like $70, which is basically the price of a Switch Pro controller.
That's not bad.
Anyways.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah, I saw those, and I immediately, because I'm really big into Smash, and that is the only way I will play that game is with a GameCube controller. Like, I'm talking night and day. I cannot even play on the Switch Pro controller. I actually went online, and I have my old Wavebird from 2002.
Oh, really?
But the stick is starting to go out in it, so I actually bought another Wavebird. Like to replace it, and those things are fucking expensive.
Yeah.
But like that's how dedicated I am to that. So I absolutely know that, and I'm looking forward to that controller coming out.
Well, there you go. There you go. Do you want? I think you have one left?
Yeah, I have one left, and I'm just gonna get through that right
now.
Sure. To those who were expecting Final Fantasy 16. They were disappointed when the producer of the game stated it was only coming to PlayStation 5 recently. The disappointment was felt extra hard because the game was originally announced for PC as well as other platforms 6 months after launch.
Yep.
When he was asked about it, the director straight up and down said,
problem.
Oh, well, it was a miscommunication, even though there's like actual video evidence. No, this was a miscommunication. If you want the game, you have to buy a PlayStation 5.
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah, he actually straight up said, no one ever said that.
Yeah.
It must have been a miscommunication. If you want to play this, buy a PlayStation 5.
Video evidence.
The fucking gall on you, man. Not even to apologize. Like, he never apologized. Didn't even apologize for your misconception. You know what I mean? Like, didn't even be like, man, this sucks. But no sympathy. Just no one ever said that. Fuck you. Get a PS5. Like, you fucking kidding me, man?
You know, the last time that exact sort of phrasing happened was back when the Xbox One was announced. Back when the Xbox One was announced, they had originally announced it with all that crazy always online shit to where you always had to be online no matter what, all that, the registration, all that sort of stuff. And somebody, I forget who, I don't think it was Phil Spencer, but it was somebody who's comparable to him. They were asked, well, what do you have to say to people who don't have that sort of internet connection available or a steady constant internet connection? The straight up and down response was, well, we have a console for those people. It's called the Xbox 360.
Yeah. That was not actually Phil Spencer. It was the guy who was running
somebody
things
else
before him.
Yeah,
because that guy basically got fired on that, if I recall correctly. That's how Phil Spencer got his job.
It was woof. It was bad times.
And
those sorts of responses happen relatively frequently too.
Yeah.
With Street Fighter V. When Street Fighter V came out, Street Fighter 4 was on all the other platforms. 5 came out, and they were like, hey, what's it going to be on? Oh, PlayStation 4 and PC. Well, what about Xbox? How can Xbox players play? The response directly was, buy a PlayStation 4. What is that? Why do people think that this is an actual, valid response? And why do they just keep going back to that over and over again?
Well, and it's one thing to screw over the mass public. It's another thing to be mean to them.
Yes.
If I recall correctly, Street Fighter V is one of the more lower selling games in the series because of it. You don't you can fuck us all the time, but you need to use lube. It's just facts. It comes down to you can't just straight up say, "Oh, fuck you guys." And it goes back to what we were saying in the talking point: the lack of understanding of the lack of connectivity, the connection to the people. The lack of understanding of what actual consumers want and enjoy. And I think that's just more problems indicative of a AAA gaming industry that just has completely and totally lost control. All right. So I shall continue. Okay. All right. Well, we'll go back to more angry things since I'm losing
yay.
my voice.
Yay.
Cyberpunk. Okay? Our one bastion of hope that Cyberpunk would in any way, shape, or form pay for their crimes. The few of us that are left who haven't just, like Goldfish, decided it's good now, so everything's forgiven. They settled their lawsuit with their shareholders.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I saw this.
For a measly, piddly $1.85 million. That's right, not billion, million. Shareholders of Cyberpunk, you guys are bitches, man. Seriously, you gave up the fight for a shared 1.85 million. Oh man, it's ridiculous. And again, guys, gals, I don't know how many times I'm gonna say this, and I'll probably be screaming it into the void as my heart beats its last. But I have no problems with Cyberpunk being good now. It's not about whether it's good now. It's never been about whether it's good now. It's about what they told you was in the game and what was not in the game. They lied to you. They lied to everybody repeatedly. And then when we called them on it, they told us it was our fault. That's the problem I have with this company. So they, as I said, sadly, when it was going on, that they'd get away scot-free, they got away with it scot-free. They didn't close. They didn't shut down. They didn't get scuttered. They spend $1.85 million, which, guys, just so that everybody knows, that's basically the equivalent of me going to McDonald's and buying a double cheeseburger. Like, that's the amount of money these people have thrown away on it. Nothing. It's nothing to them. It's nothing. You can look at me. I buy plenty of double cheeseburgers. It's nothing to them. They're out of it, free and clear, to continue to screw us. And I'm going to say this right now. They didn't lose any money off this. They've only made money on this. And I hate to say this. I hate to be this old and curmudgeonly. But when the next fucking CD Projekt Red game comes out, and it is a goddamn liar's fest of a train wreck, and you all start whining and bitching, I'm going to be like, told you. I'm going to be like, told you. Told you this would happen. I told you. You forgot. I remembered. And I didn't buy their fucking piece of shit game. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous.
Yeah, I am simultaneously surprised and not surprised at the same time that that went the way that it did. Hey, don't forget their DLC's coming out here soon. Don't forget.
How could I forget?
How could you forget?
How could I forget?
Idris Elba's going to be in it. How could you forget?
Man, everybody forgets. I don't, Neil. Everybody else forgets. I will remember. I am the one who remembers. I will continue to be the one who remembers. And everybody will sit there and they'll look at me and be like, you're an old and you're stupid. And I'll be like, fine, but this is what happened. This is the facts. I remember what they did to us. I feel like the guy in the disaster movie who just keeps telling everybody that, like, the hurricane's gonna kill us all and it's gonna be terrible, and then everybody else is that fucking party organizer who's like, no man, it's all good, you know, like, can't be possibly as bad, this guy's alarmist. And then, like, when the time comes, they destroy everything, and I'm the only one who's like, why the fuck didn't anybody listen to me? Now I gotta try and save a bunch of people from a hurricane. Like, yeah, that's what I feel like. Fucking Dennis Quaid in Day After Tomorrow, right here. Right here.
Well, what else you got?
Oh yeah, it's just me now. I keep forgetting. This one's a weird one, and it's on the content creator side of things. Is this the
YouTube thing?
It is a YouTube thing, but I don't know if it's the YouTube thing you're thinking of.
Okay.
Okay, so there's a channel I have watched for a long amount of time as a game player, and it's Eric's, spelled Arekkz. Eric's Gaming. It's this red-haired, bald, Viking-looking motherfucker who speaks with a British accent. He's a really cool dude, and I started watching him back when Anthem started to get big, and he was actually kind of into Anthem, and then he also like made his nut on Monster Hunter stuff, so then Monster Hunter World came out, and I would watch his videos on Monster Hunter World, and he was basically the face of this channel. He had a couple other guys who would work with him, but he was the face of it. He is leaving. He has left Eric's Gaming. Eric's is no longer a part of the Eric's Gaming channel. He released this video saying, I'm leaving Eric's, and he basically like very politely said this channel's great. What you don't know is it's a lot of people who work here. There's a lot of people who work behind the scenes, and while we built it up around my name, my screen name, it was actually like me and 3 other guys at the beginning. It wasn't ever just me. And he basically explained that he experiences burnout. As a content creator, I understand that. He experiences way too much burnout, and that he's just going to walk away and try and find something else to do. Really strange, though, because it's his name. So, like, Eric's Gaming,
Yeah.
Eric's no longer works at Eric's Gaming. So it's very, very weird. But I thought I'd bring it up just because I've never seen anything like that in the YouTube content. That would be like, well, no, it would be fine. Like if I left and you kept it running, Old Man Gaming still makes sense. But if we called this Disciple Hard Rock channel, you know what I mean? Like, and then I was like, I'm not going to do it anymore. It'd be very strange. But I wish him luck. I understand burnout, and I understand wanting to do something else. But yeah, I just thought it was strange, so I wanted to bring it up.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can kind of throw in here because the other, like the YouTube thing that I was talking about.
Yeah, sure, go for it.
It's like kind of relatively related to some degree to gaming, as they're now, YouTube is looking for the very specific amount of time, the first 8 seconds of a video, to see if it features any like very violent or aggressive like cussing or like graphic images. And as a result, they're like going back to previously released content on channels and like demonetizing videos just all of a sudden.
That's weird.
Because of this change.
The rule used to be 60 seconds. So that's actually down. That's actually less. It used to be in the first 60 seconds you can't swear.
I remember we used to very much follow the rule
Well,
before we were started.
I stopped following the rules very recently, and I think I've talked to you about why. But if I were offered to be in the partnership program, I would turn them down at this particular juncture. And that is because YouTube supports commercial mediums that I just don't. You know, I think that, like, first of all, during election season, and I'm not talking about a side, I'm not talking about Republicans or Democrats or Libertarians or whatever, okay? Every one of them have these ads, and they're just the basest, most disgusting fucking attack ads that you can have out there. They're just terrible, terrible shit. And like I said, both sides have it. Every side has it. Like, I'm not talking about just Republicans, just Democrats. I'm not getting political in that way. I'm saying that, like, I don't want any of that shit on my channel. I don't want it. I don't. And during election season, it's like every fucking 5 minutes you're watching a video, boom, something comes up and we're like, you know what happened with Congressman What's-Her-Face? She loves rape. She loves when people get raped, and she loves it when people do the raping. And you're just, I can't do that shit. I can't do that shit. Like, I can't. I don't want it on my channel. I don't want it anywhere near me. I think politics is disgusting. I think most government officials, regardless of side, are disgusting. I don't want that shit anywhere on my channel. Plus, they rep a bunch of products I don't want on my shit. So, and I want to be able to swear in the first minute. I want to say fuck, fuckity, fuck in the first minute. Like, that's why I came to YouTube. So, if I ever got big enough to even get into the partnership program, I would just start a Patreon and let you guys decide if our shit is worth paying for or not. You know? Like, that's... And I used to say all the time that we wouldn't sell out until we got the partnership program. I'm saying it now. We're not going to sell out ever. We're not going to sell out. We will be 100% either funded by my dumbass who keeps doing this or funded by you guys. That's it. End of story. So that's why we stopped caring. But yes, back in the day, we would try to watch it because at some point when they go, there's also a big review process too, because like when you hit those thresholds to be considered for the partnership program, like everybody on YouTube and social media thinks that like, I made, like, there's a number that you hit it, and then like a little thing pops up and goes, achievement unlocked, you're in the partnership program. Now you make money off this. It's not how it works at all. Once you get a certain threshold, you have to maintain that threshold for a period of time. Then you can apply to be in the partnership program. And the application process is incredibly rigorous. It has a lot of reviews. Basically, YouTube comes in and looks at every piece of content you've ever reviewed for any sort of copyright thing, for any sort of what you just said, excessive vulgarity, excessive like anything that would violate the partnership program. Another reason that I've always been kind of crazy about not getting copyright claims on our stuff. It doesn't affect us to get copyright claims right now because we don't make any money off of it. But if we were to make partnership program, at that point, they'd be like, hey, you got copyright claims. We got to get that out of here. That being said, I don't really worry that much about the copyright claims anymore. Like, I try and avoid them if I can. The only ones that I really fight them on are my brother's stuff. Or things that actually take my stuff down. Because I think I've talked about getting my stuff removed for WWE for a very stupid reason. So I'm sorry, I've kind of gone on a tangent on this, but it used to be 60 seconds. It used to be 60 seconds. You could not swear or have any excessive violence on the video. So 8 seconds, it actually surprises me that they've come down that much.
Yeah. So, do you still have?
I have one more.
One more.
Saved a positive one. Positive one for last. Although I do have some negative shit to say, it's as usual. It's a positive one. So, Marvel Snap players out there, and we do have a couple of listeners who are Marvel Snap players. Guess what? The long wait is over. Their PvP mode has been announced for late January. Not a specific date, but with the next season will come PvP mode. Now, Marvel Snap, of course, is a PvP game the entire time. I know what you're thinking, Neil. However, there has been no way to do private matches against a player. Like, you can't just play one player. It's all random. Period. It's matchmaking no matter what. So, like, you can't have, like, a friends list and be like, hey, I want to play against Asylum 66 today and play against him. It won't be a ranking, but it will have some slightly different rules to it. With the whole cube system, instead of gaining cubes, which gains you rank in the actual game, it's going to be about hit points, how much you lose, and you're actually going to play a series of matches against one person. So there'll be kind of like a little different set of strategy to it, which I'm very excited about. Not more than I am excited about some of the other improvements that they're making. They have said that they will putting some more of the cards that they haven't had into the collector's reserve boxes, and then they will be also reducing the amount required to buy cards in the collector's token shop, which thank fucking God, because I have actually stopped playing that game because of the lockdown at the end that happens. It's incredibly infuriating and frustrating. So I'm very much hoping that I'll come back for PvP just because I got a bunch of friends I want to take my decks against. But maybe I'll stay for this. And I know, Neil, you're not into Marvel Snap, but basically, like, you get a lot of really cool stuff for the first so many hours, you know? But you get to this point where it actually, like, restricts the amount of shit you get, and the amount of grinding you have is just is too much. It's astronomical. And this is coming from somebody who would play hours of it. Hours and hours of it weekly. Like, it was my go-to anytime I wasn't doing something else. and I couldn't get cards. So all the but I couldn't get all the cards is the thing. So I would have the certain cards I have, and there was no way to get other cards because it actually slows the amount of cards you can have, like you get as you get higher up in the rankings, which is infuriating. Just absolutely infuriating.
You mean that they'll try to force you to pay for microtransactions?
What's insane about this? No, what's insane about this, Neil, is it's actually you can't really buy them with the microtransactions. Like that's what's insane. Is that the microtransactions in the game is there's a bundle you can buy always, but it only rotates out every so many weeks. And then there's gold bars you can buy, but the gold bars can only be used to buy variant cards of cards you already have, or which are just pictures, or to buy more missions to do in the game to get more credits to upgrade your cards. But it doesn't allow you to just buy straight out other cards.
So, like, how do you get new cards?
You have to play. And get the cards. But the problem is, when you start, the way you get cards in Marvel Snap... Sorry, everybody, we're about to go on a tangent. The way you get cards in Marvel Snap is you level up the cards. So, like, you'll get a card, and it'll just be normal. And then you'll put points... You'll put credits into it, and you'll put boosters into it, which you earn from the boosters from putting the card in your deck and playing that deck, and the credits from doing missions, like side missions, like play so many levels of this, play so many of this, whatever. When you spend that, though, it raises the card becomes prettier. Like it goes from common to frame break, and then it becomes a 3D card, and then it becomes an animated card. And then it eventually becomes an infinity card, which gives you another copy of the card to level up again. When you level up the cards, though, you end up leveling up on this thing called the collector's level. Every so many collector's level in the beginning, you just get a new card. Here's a new card. Here's a new card. Here's some credits. Here's a new card. Here's some credit. Here's a new card. When you get up to collector's level, like I want to say like it's around 2,000, but I can't remember. When you get up to that level... It'll be like you'll need like 10 collector's levels, and you'll get like boosters, credits, and then this thing called the collector's reserve. The collector's reserve does not just have cards in it, though. It also has this thing called collector's tokens. It also has things called credits. It also has gold. So you no longer get cards guaranteed every time. In fact, you very rarely get cards in the collector's reserve. You can also get variants in the collector's reserve of cards you already have. So it shuts down you getting cards. The only other way to get a card is called the collector's token shop. Basically, every 8 hours, they switch the card, and it'll be one card. You can pin it so that it won't switch out the card, and then you have to collect a certain amount of collector's tokens, and then you can just buy that card right out. Guess what, though? You only gain collector's tokens from these collector's reserves. And you only gain 100 at a time, and they're randomly thrown in there with the 6 other things you can get from the collector's reserve. And the cards in the collector's token shop cost between 3,000 and 6,000. I have been working on an absorbing man that's only 3,000 for literally months. And I'm only at 1,100. So like those are the 2 ways to get cards. That's it. They don't even allow you to just buy the cards with real world money. The only thing that even remotely resembles that is there's a $99 bundle in the shop that allows you to buy that has collector's tokens in it, and then a card which is a variant of something you probably already have.
That is way too complicated.
It's insane
for a card game.
Well, and why would you make it that I can't just buy? Like, I wouldn't. I never would. But like, yeah, it seems like it's funneled to the microtransactions. The microtransactions don't even get you the fucking card. They don't. They don't get you a new card. It's crazy to me.
Like, I enjoyed how Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links did it. So, like, you get a starter deck, and then as you play, you slowly unlock other characters to play as, right. And they all come with their own deck.
Right.
So
and
you get like bundles of cards at a time, but then like you get a random pack sometimes for beating an enemy, but you also like for finishing matches, you get your, your standard gems that you can take.
But they
and
can't
buy
do
packs.
that. Right. I understand
Like,
that because I played Legends of Runeterra was the same way. So was Eternal. They're the same way. Well, not exactly the same, but I know what you mean. You get boosters for play. The problem is, though, is Marvel Snap is so simplified that there are no cards other than character cards. There is no other cards in Marvel, and the decks are 12 cards. That's it. It's 12 cards, and all the cards are characters. So, like, you don't get any, like, there's no reason to have a deck with it. You know what I mean? Like, they can't do that, which I understand they can't do that. Like, getting one new card in Marvel Snap is huge because most of the time you can build a whole deck around it because it's only 12 cards. You know what I mean? Like, or it'll fit into one of your decks perfectly. There's still a good amount of strategy to it. I don't want to say it's oversimplified, but like they don't have the card amount to do that. Like even the different typing, like they couldn't give you a new deck with something because that would literally be an entire percentage of their entire cards there.
Yeah.
So like I'm okay with just getting one card, but like there are tons of cards that I want to build decks of that I've seen other people play. I have no way of acquiring them. No way of acquiring them other than just hoping randomly I get them in one of these collector's reserve drops that take forever to even get a card, or get it through the collector's token shop, which takes even longer because you're only getting 100 tokens from the collector's reserve. It's all on this collector's reserve. So like they need to find a way to make it that I can get more cards because I've played with all my decks and I'm bored, you know?
Yeah.
All right, we've talked about that too much, but Marvel Snap PvP coming late January, as well as hopefully a rework for definitely a rework for the collector's tokens. I don't know how good it'll be, but that's it for odds and ends. You want to shut this thing down?
Oh yes, I want to go sleep.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of the show. The shameless self-promotion that comes with it. Neil, would you like to plug anything specific this week?
We do have upcoming here. It's going to be next week, is it? I believe next week on Wednesday.
A week from Wednesday, yes.
A week. Well, yes, it will be a week from this coming Wednesday. We're planning on doing a stream. We have yet to test the cooperative playability on mine and Kayla's end. But we're looking to kind of change it up a little bit here.
Yeah.
We've been doing Halo, the lasso thing here for a while. But we're looking to do You Suck at Parking. We talked about doing this, back in November.
Yeah, I was afraid to leave Game Pass before we got to it.
Yeah. But yeah, we are finally looking like we're going to give that a shot here, and I can't wait to play that game because I've not played it, but from what I see, it looks like fun chaos that I want to be a part of.
Yeah. It is fun. At least for one stream. There's definitely a few games that I think we could play as a trio other than just Halo. Monster Prom, I talked to you about that one. Stick Fight, I'd love to play that with you. River City Girls 2, if you get that, the three of us can play on. Oh no, we can't. It's 2-player online co-op. But still, there's other games that we can play. That being said, yes, that will be Wednesday the 25th, so a week from this Wednesday. I also want to plug another upcoming stream. Myself and Wizards Respite are going to do I'm very nervous about the stream of what it's going to be, but we're going to do a 2-player playthrough of a tea shop at the end of the last tea shop playthrough. It's a game by Spring Villager, tabletop RPG. It's usually a solo journaling game. You may have seen some narrations on the channel. I was doing the narrations for him for his solo playthrough. He wrote it up, which I thought was really cool. So I'm very excited to see what it looks like 2-player. And we're going to be chatting with you guys too in between each chapter. I've never done anything like this, so it should be a very interesting thing. That's on Groundhog Day. February 2nd. Please check that out. A couple other things I want you to keep your eyes out for, guys. Keep your eyes out for. I'm going to be trying to get together a new bi-weekly live play stream to replace Axiom, Star Trek Axiom, the one we used to do. That's just not going to happen anymore. So I'm trying to put one together. It won't be a Star Trek game. It'll be something. I don't know who the players are going to be. Still working on that. The system will be the newest system upcoming from Axiom Games LLC. That's right. We're not dead. We're still alive. We're going to make another system. So please keep your eyes out for that. We're looking to put that together sometime in the next couple of months. UHW. Remember that? It's coming back. It's coming back. I've already contacted Neil. I've contacted everybody on Discord. Hopefully they read the message. But we're definitely going to start doing that. Read the Discord, for shit's sake. It's my one request. We got a new player, Wizard's Respite, again, is going to jump in on that. He's working on his character right now. As soon as he gives me the character, we're going to start recording stuff for that again. That it's probably a little bit far off because we like to have like 8 to 12 episodes in the bag before we start releasing them. But we're about to start working on them, so huzzah. Finally, as far as shows go, OMGM. That's Old Man General Manager, still plugging that. That's where myself and Grandpa Gamer do a little book off. Against each other in WWE 2K22's GM mode. It is a lot of fun. You guys have really been enjoying it. The reception to it has been surprisingly overwhelming. As far as streams, Forever Community is still doing State of Decay 2 Tuesday mornings, 11 a.m. Amateur Hour, I'm playing River City Girls 2 probably for the foreseeable future. At 9:30, it's the best brawler ever made. 9:30, and then finally Hard Rock Horror on Friday. Also got a new set of reviews coming up. I have reviewed River City Girls 2. Spoiler alert, it's great. That is already out if you're listening to this or watching it. I'm also going to be reviewing Warhammer Darktide, as well as Kinseed, possibly one other game in this little set. I've already recorded a couple of the reviews. I just need to put them together. So, got a lot of stuff, guys. A lot of content here on the channel. You can continue to watch the podcast. I'm done ranting about all the stuff we do. But we'll be back next week. You can contact us on Facebook at OmegaMeDH, on Twitter at OmegaMe9. You can join our Discord. Link is in the description below. Influence this. All of our shows from there. As long as you keep listening and watching, we'll keep making them. We'll see you guys next time.
Even now, like the tiniest little thing sets my whole week like into a tailspin. So like last week was the homework, was the class stuff. I got that all figured out, but then I had to overcompensate for that. And I was like, okay, cool. So starting next week, this week, everything's going to be like normal and according to plan, and I'll be back on my regular schedule. Nope, because I didn't realize that apparently starting this year, Verizon is observing Martin Luther King Day.
Oh, okay, cool.
Like so as a federal holiday, which is I don't get it off. I don't get it off.
What are they observing about it then?
Well, we close. We have limited hours. We close early.
Right.
But the problem is Monday was always my wake up first thing in the morning and do all the homework before I have to be in at 11 o'clock.
Okay.
Because of the change in the hours, they're kicking us in earlier.
Nice.
So because of that, now I'm like, great. So there's a whole nother day that's already screwed up. So like even like, because normally I would pack my lunch before I go to work that day for, work. But even now, like, one of the things I had to do is like after I finished dinner, I hung out for just a little bit and was like, okay, well, I have to do my lunch now because I can't do it tonight because by the time I get done here, I have to go upstairs, go to bed, yada, yada. I can't pack my lunch then. I can't pack it in the morning because, I have to be at work earlier. So
I don't know. I don't have a full-time job, and I feel like my entire week is in a tailspin from the start to the absolute end. It's just like, wake up, like, okay, work on business 101. Try and get that solved. No? Okay. All right. No. Now I got to edit. Okay. All right. Now I got to edit. I got to clean my house. All right. Now I'm going to work on my game. Oh, wait. I got to get style off the bus. All right. Now I got to cook dinner. Spend time with my wife. That's nice. Okay. That's over. Got to get downstairs. Get stuff posted. Get that going. All right. Got to get that posted. Did I get that posted? Okay. It's midnight. Okay. Go to sleep. Wake up at 7. Gotta get still up. Gotta get on a bus. I gotta work on this. Oh, I gotta stream. All right, gotta stream. Doing the stream. Stream's a lot of fun. All right, stream's over. Gotta immediately work. Oh, I gotta do a meeting. Gotta do a meeting with Mark about the business. Gotta do that. All right, now I gotta work on the game. Wait, I can't get still off the bus. All right, gotta still off the bus. Okay, cook dinner. Spend time with wife. Yay! Stream! Gotta stream! Gotta go back to stream. Wait, I got the kids at 6 o'clock in the morning? Okay, alright, deal with that. Okay, got the kids at 6 o'clock. Alright, okay. Alright, that's fun. They're crazy. Okay, alright, they're on. Okay, cook dinner. See my wife. Great. Get downstairs. Work on game. Try to spend some time with my friends so that they don't think I don't like them for no apparent reason. Next day, wake up, 6 a.m., spend time with kids. Oh, cook dinner. All right, cook dinner, spend time with wife. Okay, all right, stream. Yes, all right, cool. Friday, wake up, fall back asleep because I'm stupid and old, even though I have a ton of stuff to do. Wake up, clean house. Gotta clean more house. Stream. Gotta get back in there. All right, get some more writing done. Stella's off the bus. Great. Gotta go out to nerdy. Okay, cool. Got that. Saturday, basketball. Oh, Friday now, basketball too. We got basketball both days. Great. Basketball's extra half hour. Sweet. Definitely had time for that. Sunday, wake up. That's the whole fucking week for me. And now I've planned literally like 3 more games that I have to set up. So I get it, man. If you can manage to not spread yourself thin, congratulations. I am not capable of that. I am only ever spread too thin or overloaded from spread too thin.